Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
Arsenal win again and having kept another clean sheet. Mikel Arteta's just said this is the biggest win of the season. And when you consider the results elsewhere, when you consider the fact that both Liverpool and Manchester City have lost in the same weekend, I can't remember the last time that happened. I mean, it's always been one of them sort of lifting the Premier League title in recent seasons. So for both of them to drop points the way they have and for Arsenal to capitalise on that, it feels really, really big. I'm coming to you from Emirates Stadium around about an hour now after the full time whistle. It's a quiet Emirates Stadium, but people left happy. People left in a really positive mood, as you'd expect given the outcome here today. But in terms of the story of the game, it wasn't an easy afternoon for Arsenal, and I never thought it would be, to be honest with you. We talked a lot about it in the preview as being a difficult fixture. We talked a lot about Crystal Palace's system, how their system, in my opinion, is geared for games and performances like this, how Oliver Glasner has his team incredibly well drilled. I did wonder if fatigue was going to be an issue for them today as the game went on, but it wasn't. And credit to them, credit to Oliver Glasner, because they kept going throughout the game and they made life very, very difficult for Arsenal. They limited us to very few good opportunities. They limited us to sort of arriving in the spaces that we normally like to in terms of trying to create stuff from open play. But you switch off against this Arsenal side in any way, shape or form, you concede a cheap set piece, for example, and Arsenal will punish you. And that's the difference between Arsenal and everybody else at the moment. We keep getting called set piece FC and people sort of poke fun at Arsenal as if, it's the only way that they can score goals. It's not their plan A. It's a very, very good plan B. And if you stop them with plan A, then they will punish you with plan B. And that's why Arsenal right now are so difficult to keep at bay, and it's why they're so difficult to overcome. Add to that this incredible defensive solidity. I just asked Mikel Arteta if, in his wildest dreams, he thought that the defence would be this good at the start of the season in terms of the numbers, the lack of sort of chances that opposition teams are creating against us. And he said no. He knows that the defence is performing at an incredibly high level. And I think today we got to give a very big shout out to Gabriel, because we all knew he was a doubt going into the game. We all knew that he had to leave the field of play against Atletico Madrid with a problem. And we all wondered if he was going to take part today. At the press conference on Friday, Mikel Arteta revealed that he hadn't trained at that point. And so going into this game, no one was overly concerned or worried, because Christian Mosquera has been a very, very able deputy so far. But of course, you'd prefer to have Big Gabby at the back, not just for what he brings you in our box, but for what he brings you in the opposition's box as well. And I asked Mikel Arteta how hard Gabriel was pushing to start today, given, of course, he was a fitness doubt going into it. And he said the hard thing with Gabby is not to play him, because he'll smash your door and tell you that he's ready. He'll probably even put the shirt on. That's Gabby. He wants to play every minute, and he knows the presence and leadership he brings. He was superb again. And that's exactly right. He was outstanding in both penalty areas. You think about the way that the goal came about. The free kick goes into the box. Gabriel wins the initial header and he puts it into a dangerous area. And Emirates Eze is the quickest to react to the second ball. Now, big props to him as well, because we've seen players come up against their former clubs many, many times and allow it maybe to get into their heads a little bit. And as a result, sometimes you see a slightly subdued performance. But Emirates Eze, stepped up with a big moment. And I would argue that he didn't have the greatest game all round. I would argue maybe he could have been taken off a little bit earlier for Mikel Merino prior to the Declan Rice injury happening, because I felt like at that state in the game, we needed someone who was a bit more effective going both ways. And obviously Eze, outstanding attacking talent, maybe isn't quite as effective off the ball as some of our other options and some of our other players. So I did wonder, how long he was going to stay on the pitch for. But ultimately, he's had the decisive say in this game, and it's an unbelievable goal. The technique is just incredible. The ball bounces up quite high, and that makes it very, very difficult. And he sort of adopts that scissor motion in order to make sure that he can keep the effort controlled. And Henderson in the Crystal Palace goal has got no chance of keeping it out. whatsoever. Look, we'll get into the tactical ins and outs of the game, and we'll talk a little bit about why Crystal Palace were able to limit us and why they were able to cause us problems on the transition on a few occasions. But I think for now, you've just got to process what's gone on elsewhere in the Premier League, and you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it, because we've gone from a weekend where you're looking at it and you're going, Liverpool probably going to win, Man City probably going to win, Aston Villa haven't had a remarkable start to the season, I don't think, and it's not that long ago that there were questions starting to be asked of Unai Emery and whether or not Villa was still at the same level. So I didn't expect either of those two teams to drop points, but once Liverpool did, and once it became apparent that City were behind and there was the potential for that to happen, there was a pressure on Arsenal. There was a pressure on Arsenal to go and make it count, and they've done exactly that. And was there a bit of anxiety within the stadium as the game went on and we got closer to the final whistle? Yes, there was, but there should be, because there is that real high ambition here at Arsenal to go on and win the big one. It's been over 20 years since Arsenal have been crowned Premier League champions, and not for a second am I crowning them 9-10 games into a season. No way. But they're in a really good, strong position now as a result of what's gone on elsewhere today, and we should enjoy that. We should take a moment to kind of reflect on the fact that when everybody else is struggling, and when everybody else is struggling for consistency especially, Arsenal have found that consistency, at least in terms of the results, the performances. They could be better. There's always room for improvement, and I think as a top manager and as a top coach, Mikel Arteta will always be striving for that. He'll always be talking to his players about how they can do more, about how they can be better, about how they can improve, about how they can increase those margins. But to be sat on 22 points with Manchester City down in 5th on 16 and Liverpool down in 7th on 15, that's a really healthy position to be in. Now, that's not to be disrespectful to Bournemouth, who are just 4 points behind the Arsenal, but do they have what it takes to go the distance? I would argue that they don't. Tottenham currently winning as I'm recording this, and they would move up into 3rd on 17 points. Sunderland in 4th on 17 points as well. But the two clubs that we went into the season feeling as though we'd need to finish above in order to be crowned Premier League champions, they're in the rearview mirror at the moment. And yes, it's early and a lot can change and a lot can happen, and we've learnt the hard way in recent seasons that having an early lead doesn't always mean that you're going to be crowned Premier League champions or that you're going to have an easy ride for what remains of the campaign. But it's a brilliant place to be, and we should enjoy it, I think. So we'll break the game down in a lot more detail tomorrow. We'll do all the analysis and all the rest of it, and of course have your say in the comments as well. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to go one further in supporting the pod, of course you can visit us on Patreon, and you can get involved there as well, do all the usual things, like, subscribe, all the rest of it. But today was a very, very good day for the Arsenal. Was it uncomfortable at times? Yeah, I'd have to say it was, but at the end of the day, Arsenal have got a big result. It's a massive 3 points. It could be the biggest 3 points of the season so far, given, as I say, the way that the rest of the weekend shaped up. And Arsenal now with 2 away trips to come in the Premier League, but not before that game against Brighton in the Carabao Cup. A game that we should take seriously, because we've got the squad to compete on multiple fronts. And for those that are demanding that Mikel Arteta wins a trophy, the Carabao Cup presents you with an opportunity to get one in the bag nice and early. So we've got to take that seriously on Wednesday. But as I say, all attention then will turn to those 2 upcoming Premier League games. And Burnley away, Sunderland away. I've just mentioned where Sunderland are in the table, so you can't take that one for granted. And Burnley have been a lot more effective at the start of the season than I thought they would be. So 2 potentially difficult games coming up, but just take one game at a time. And at the moment that feels like it's the approach. And it feels like we're doing okay. The only drawback, the only negative, I suppose, from today is that we've obviously lost Saliba at half-time. He couldn't continue. That was confirmed by Mikel Arteta. Declan Rice couldn't continue with some sort of problem, and the same for Ricardo Calafiori. If those 3 are unavailable midweek, I don't think it's the end of the world, given that the depth that we have. Not that I'm taking Brighton lightly, but given the depth we have, I suppose we can cope. But the focus will be on getting those guys recovered, and hopefully some, if not all of them, will be available at the weekend. Remember, like, subscribe, all the rest of it, and I'll see you with a full pod tomorrow morning. Cheers.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Come on, you Gunners. Chronicles of a Gooner.